SJWs, love 'em or hate 'em, in recent years their voices have been heard by a much wider audience than before. Many of these SJWs are, in a way, shooting themselves in the feet. You see, most people believe in the idea of social justice. Talk to anyone on almost any part of the political spectrum about gay rights, women's rights, disabled rights, welfare, and so on, and most of them will agree with you, at least to some extent, that they should indeed have said rights. Talk to the average person about, say, making it easier for disabled children to get around at school and college, and most people, I think, would agree with you that it would be a good thing. In a way, many people are social activists, but what separates a social activist from a social justice warrior? And is there really any difference? Well, I think there is, and it really boils down to the attitudes of individuals and what kind of ideology they follow and how they go about making change. For example, a social activist will say, "Oh look, there's no wheelchair ramps into that building, let's build a ramp." Whereas a social justice warrior will say something like, "Let's persecute the people for using the stairs and make them feel bad about having legs." However, as a result of these SJWs saying stuff that is quite often ridiculous, they have created a reactionary movement that is now even bigger and more powerful than the SJW movement itself. Things have become unbalanced. You see, when an SJW posts an article or a video, you'll get literally dozens upon dozens of anti-SJW YouTubers making reaction and response videos. These response videos give a greater credence to the arguments put out by the tiny but vocal minority of SJWs and create an atmosphere where people think SJWs are a much bigger threat than they really are. The anti-SJW movement has become a community. That community has become an echo chamber, and this is how the right-wing populist movement of today was really born. And the right are loving it. They're using the SJWs as a way to discredit the left as a whole, lumping SJWs and the left together and perpetuating the notion that these SJWs are somehow part of a cultural Marxist conspiracy theory to end free speech and take over and destroy Western civilization. It really is as absurd as it sounds, but that is the state of modern political discourse as it stands at the time of me making this video. Even big-name YouTubers like Sargon of Akkad, a supposed rational skeptic, has now seemingly thrown all rationality and skepticism out of the window and placed himself among the reactionary right-wing populist movement, rejecting left-wing politics as a whole, believing in conspiracy theories, and creating a dishonest and inaccurate view of politics that has only further discredited genuine leftist movements and given rise in popularity to the right. We're in unfortunate times right now. The right wing are using a tiny, vocal minority of outspoken people to discredit us all on the left entirely, and people are falling for it hook, line and sinker. More and more anti-SJW channels are being created daily, and some of them are genuine right-wingers, validating themselves by using this platform to spread their ideas of conservatism and right-wing libertarianism. Those of us on the left who are rational see right through this sordid attempt to create a right-wing populist movement through the anti-SJW ticket, and we're doing our best to call it out, discredit it, and spread actual left-wing ideas that would create real equality in society, ideas that most people seem to believe in. If we continue to let the right-wing ride this anti-SJW ticket without criticising them, we will help to validate their conservative, neoliberal, right-wing ideas, and society will suffer greatly for it. We'll witness the end of universal healthcare, the welfare state, the selling off of our public assets, and the end to freedom and equality. When you look deep enough at what's going on in the world today, you'll realise things are never quite as simple as they seem, and you'll also realise what I have come to realise, that if you really want to see who the real bad guys are in this situation, look no further than to the right of the political spectrum, as always.
And one lad got up, he said, in the 1930s we had mass unemployment, but he said we don't have mass unemployment in wartime. He said, if you can have full employment by killing Germans, why can't you have full employment by building hospitals, building schools, recruiting teachers, recruiting nurses? You've got to do in peacetime what you do in wartime, develop your policies to meet people's needs, and it was that argument that triggered the 1945 victory, brought us big social changes.
Labour will now have a majority over all parties in a House of 640.
The course of the next few years may well decide the future of civilization for decades or for centuries.